To the live stream. Get started in just a second here. Uh, I'm gonna play around with my thing so I can see everybody. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, see me. Let's see what we got. All right. Yeah, give me a thumbs up if you can see me and hear me here. We're just about to get started. All right. So today's live is about using technology to streamline your business. I'll get started in just a second here, and we'll get going. Oh, thanks, Laurie. We can hear you. Nice. Awesome. Well, I'll jump right into it since everyone can hear me now. I'll get going on this right now. Share my screen. A little presentation here. Make sure that you can see properly here. All right, so welcome everybody. My name is Joe from Avalon Accounting. If you haven't met me yet, I'm going live out of Victoria here. We're out of Quench, which is a co-working space that we keep an office in. And yes, this is a real background. This is our real background. I'm really excited to be here today and go over streamlining business operations with everybody. It's one thing using technology in business, especially small business, can be a challenge. It can be time intensive, but the payoffs can be really great as well. So I wanted to cover some learnings that I've had over the years, and hopefully help you decide on what kind of software to use and uh, be more efficient with your business. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And here's what we're going to cover. So, content highlights. We want to, number one, identify time consuming business processes, things that are going to save you the most amount of time for the money that you're spending, leveraging automation tools, embracing cloud computing, uh, mobile solutions for on the go management as well, team training and adoption, which is really critical. And then we'll have time for some Q&A here. I've slated an hour for this. Sometimes it takes about that, sometimes less, but I won't ramble on too much. Try to keep it really relevant for everybody. All right, so we'll jump right into this. And um, and cover time consuming processes. So I mean, I'll use some finance examples as well, but my idea here is when you're starting your business, don't just jump into software. Don't just use technology for technology's sake. It can get quite expensive, and I've heard the term of death by a thousand SaaS cuts, where you're in your business, you're wanting to try out new software, pay for all this software because it's going to save you all this time, and you end up with just uh, a load of software that maybe doesn't talk to one another, maybe you don't use anymore, but you continue to pay. And a lot of companies depend on you not canceling your subscription or making it really hard to cancel your subscription. So you end up with really high expenses in the early days. So just being really careful of where you're using this technology. Um, but some common time-consuming tasks in small business, I think, are things that are like finance. Finance, of course, is a big one. So invoicing, reconciling, if you're doing your own bookkeeping, those kinds of things. But also in sales and marketing, can be quite time-consuming if you're not using software for scheduling out maybe your posts to different platforms. We use a program called Later, uh, or we have in the past as well, and that's helped keep those time-consuming activities much lower. Um, and in finance, I mean, we use Xero, but it's not right for everybody, and that's where I go back to don't use technology for technology's sake. So we offer a free bookkeeping template. There's a video here on our YouTube channel. And the reason we created that is a lot of small businesses, especially freelancer type businesses, don't need a whole accounting software. often they're just tracking the money that's coming in, money that's going out, and trying to file a tax return. And in that case, you can get away with just using a Google sheet or an Excel document to track those things. And so you're not adding another piece of software, one that you have to learn, but two that you have to pay for. So that's really key is experiencing that need. And what I say, in some of the presentations that I've done, is feel the need first. Kind of go through with. I mean, if you get to know spreadsheets, I mean, I'm an accountant, so it feels natural. But if you can get to know spreadsheets, a lot of times that's going to be good enough for you, whether it is in maybe you have clients and sales, you get an inquiry, keep track of those inquiries, have, where you're following your process, whether you're following up with a potential client, whether you have had a call with them, take notes on those calls, but you can do that all within a spreadsheet. You don't need a fancy CRM. I remember, evaluating HubSpot, and I evaluated it, actually implemented it 3 or 4 times, and I kept hitting this like, is it really worth it? Because the jump in cost can be so high. Um, and that this time savings that it was offering were, I think, minimal. Like, we don't have, you know, a sales team, and we're not tracking, their close rates and things like that. So it became where it was like, oh, it'd be nice to have, for sure. It would be nice to have something like that, but it wasn't really worth it. So just keeping track of that manually first. And if it's going to save you a bunch of time and really level up where you get a return on that investment, definitely worthwhile doing, but it's not always the case. So every business is going to be different, I think, in this scenario where your time consuming processes are going to be varied, whether that's in a POS or inventory tracking or production. So if you was a service based business like ours, tracking your return on each project and that kind of thing, that might be a useful place to have some technology in there. But my advice is start with a spreadsheet, see what you need out of that piece of software first, and that it's actually going to save you time. So there's no shortcut to experience, I think, with this. So key there. So the key areas in business. I mean, strategy. Yeah, you could probably have some traction thing. I think they've sell pieces of software for that. So strategy, marketing, sales process stuff, production or delivery of your product, inventory management, that kind of thing is another one. HR management would be another big focus. Administration, and then lastly, finance. So those are kind of the big areas where you might look at where your time consuming processes are and where you can maybe enhance those with software. All right. So moving on from there, automation. So that's what we're really talking about here. We're looking at things that we do repeatedly and that software could do for us much better. So in the accounting and bookkeeping space, obviously you're looking at Xero, QuickBooks, FreshBooks, those kinds of things. And that's where, you can set up automatic invoice reminders, for example, or have your customers pay directly onto that invoice where um, you don't have to follow up as much and manually keep that going in your head. Maybe you get a report once a month, take a look at that for maybe more detailed follow up, but that the software is actually doing that for you. And if I can just say one thing, if you're a service based business and you send invoices, make it easy to pay. It's one of the biggest things I see in small service-based companies is they don't give payment instructions or credit card. You can pass on credit card fees now, so if people can just pay and the fee is there. Um, I would suggest doing that because it saves you so much time and effort, and it's become the expectation now. I think that you can just pay that invoice right away from your phone and get that out of your client's to-do list. So really important to look at things like that. Um, CRM systems, like I said, we had looked at HubSpot and actually implemented it and used it for quite a while. Became a bit of overkill, but for a lot of businesses, it's going to be key. It's going to be really helpful for them. They are quite powerful. We'll get into adoption in a little bit, but um, programs like that can be super helpful. And then social media and marketing using a program like Later, super helpful to automate. The difference between your Twitter posts and your or X posts and Instagram and whatnot, and just keep those consistent across your channels. So there's some examples there. Now, as far as cloud computing goes, I think for a lot of people, it's just the way things are done now. But if you haven't got there, I mean, the advantage is that you don't have to do these backups and things. I think that's what people like the diaspora of your documents being all over the place is something that should be a thing of the past. You shouldn't have to go looking for a bunch of documentation. We use Google Apps for our internal drive and all of that, and everything is super searchable. I mean, we try to keep it organized as well, so it's in folders and whatnot. But it's a great example where you don't have to find what folder it is. And Microsoft and Apple, like as good of technology as they are, searching for things can be such a pain. Whereas Google, they're using their search capabilities if you're looking for a document in the future. So really handy to use that as well. I'm just gonna pull up my document here just to make sure I'm covering everything. Um, yeah, and then for finance stuff as well. So really key with finance is that it used to be we would have these files that your accountant has, your bookkeeper has, and then you would save that to a computer, a hard drive, back it up to a external drive, and there was always this version control that would happen. So with cloud technology, and if I know there's going to be people that are like absolutely beyond this, but it was a big step forward in that we're dealing with the same ledger, the same file in real time. So if I update something, the client sees that immediately, and that was a big upgrade for accounting in general and bookkeeping, and is something that is quite powerful and is just happening in kind of the the world now and becomes natural, but was a big step forward and why we adopted cloud technology almost 9 years ago. Um, so it has been a big step forward, and it's still kind of working its way through Canada. I think we're maybe slow adopters in a lot of ways. QuickBooks Desktop and Sage had a big foothold in this country and still do. But if you are kind of on the edge, if you're feeling like somebody's using that and it's like your accountant or bookkeeper is using that, uh, and you're not getting the service that you need, it can often be the case that it's just really a slow technology, and old, and is going to be gone completely. I would say in the next few years for sure. Hey, Mike, how you doing? Thanks for joining. Awesome. And then we get into mobile solutions. So for different companies, this can work a little bit differently, but sort of leapfrogging on the cloud technology piece is that we work in a remote environment completely. I mean, we have a few people in Victoria here, but otherwise our team is spread out across Canada. Um, and we have a few employees in the Philippines as well. And we are able to do that because of cloud technology, but also mobile on the go stuff as well. So I don't necessarily need to be at a desk, take a lot of calls and communications through travel and whatnot, and that's useful from other pieces of technology and mobile technology. So When I started Avalon, we used a program called Asana to to manage all of our projects, and we definitely outgrew it, but it was really powerful for a long time for us and kept us, very task based, very process based. But you could do that on a pretty much on a mobile phone and still can, and that's the sort of power of some of those apps as well, what you can do on there, and also for communication. So we use Slack. We have internal Slack channels, and any questions that come up, I can answer, on my phone. Super helpful. Still important to be able to turn that off. So if you have other tips on that, please feel free to share them in the comments here on how you, if you use those things, how you keep uh, a safe distance at different hours. I've gone through processes of completely deleting everything off my phone and then adding back only as I need, which has been helpful, especially in times of overstress. But mobile can take over for us too. And the benefits are, I mean, there's pros and cons to going fully remote. I'll say, like the one-on-one contact has to be front of mind. It doesn't happen just naturally. So it's really important to engage in a remote environment and go that extra mile to create events and things that people want to attend, and constantly adapt. So we used to do mandatory fun days. So we call it man fun for short. And we would have a game or something that we'd hope everybody come. It was sort of tongue in cheek mandatory, but hoping that everyone would come and enjoy some time together. Through the pandemic, that just became overwhelmed. So, if you're on your phone and on Zoom and on, a screen so much, to go and socialize in that environment became a lot to take. And So we had to adapt, and we pulled back for a while, but we've re-engaged with the team on those things, and we have the Avalon Cup going these days, which is point. We have teams and we have points for doing different activities and posting those to Slack. So sharing uh, some. Um, some more activities personally. So it's really important to re-engage with that. This is it's a double-edged sword. Whereas if you're in an office and you're, in a physical environment, obviously much easier to just talk to people and have a coffee or a side conversation, and all that water cooler talk happens quite naturally. In a remote environment, you have to try new things, keep it fresh, and constantly try something a little bit new. So that's what we've been doing on that side. Right. Now, this is key. And I think I don't want to rush through this part. Um, but training and team adoption, and I'll speak from experience. I love trying out new pieces of software. I take the marketing hook, line, and sinker, and I run with it because I think it's like, oh, here's the next thing that's going to save the business, or really improve everybody's working environment and all of that. So I've jumped into a lot of software over the years. I think probably CRMs are the ones we've tried the most. Different ways to engage with clients and potential clients, keep track of them, and try to automate where automation makes sense, and enhance a personal connection. And I will say that too, and going back to, why implement some of these pieces of software, it's not just like, the most efficient you can possibly be, and automation this and automation that. For me, it's like, how do you get to the good stuff, the real one-to-one connection with a client or potential client, um, and get through some of the normal back and forth that tends to happen before you get somebody on a call, or that. So it's kind of a progression model where, somebody reaches out, and they have short attention spans. They might be looking at 10 or 12 or 15 different accountants at the time. We send something out. Okay, here's what the next steps look like, and break all that down. Whereas if we put that on a website, people might not read that. So they've reached out, they get an email back. it's automated, yes, but it's a little more information because they've shown interest. And then we progress from there. So if I, it's fill out a form, fill out more of a form, and you reconnect and you connect more and more, and then you engage personally when it makes sense to do so, not automate absolutely everything and try to get them to sign a document or on as a new client all through automation. And I think that would be, overkill. So knowing that. But then as far as getting the team involved as well, and that's what I mean about, using this technology well, is that you need to think about these things, I think, thoroughly. I've definitely implemented some software prematurely in the past where team wasn't ready for it, didn't have buy-in, and it ends up falling a bit flat, or you need to do much, much more work later to get everybody engaged and lose a bit of credibility and uh, political political will at some point. So really important to really think these things through, try it out, make sure it's going to work, and then really engage with the team about the change that's going to happen and how it's going to help them improve things. Um, so taking that time to really try things out and training staff as well on those new technologies, really important to do training and re-engage, explain again and again and again why the change is happening. I think that's really important, and what state we're trying to get to with it. But also promoting that culture of continuous learning and adaptation, I think is key as well. So people being open to change on that side. It gets harder and harder as your business grows. So the more people you have, the more stuck we get. It's a bigger ship to turn, and so you need to be a little more careful. And I am a lot more careful these days about any software that I'm implementing. I do like to check out different pieces of software a lot still, but as far as protecting the team from my grand ideas of um, a, a firm that runs very, very tech based. I try to protect the team from that and stick to what we have right now. Um, and that's it. I think something important to consider with that is that it's not just buying this piece of software and training the team on it and getting them to adopt it as well. A lot of these software providers too, especially if you're spending, a lot of time implementing them and you're creating your business around them, you want to support those software providers as well. And so it's not just about team adoption. The culture of learning and adaptation extends to trying to get the software providers to provide a better product as well, because that'll help them, and feedback into your business as well. So being a supportive vendor or supportive customer, I think, is really important for a lot of those software companies, because a lot of them aren't huge. Some of them are, but we use a program called Carbon, and it's a production software. It's directed at accountants. And we try to spend a lot of time helping them improve the product, helping them sell to new accountants, although they're getting pretty big now. So I don't feel like I have to do that much anymore. But a great piece of software. And for a long time, you really just don't want to see them fail. So you do support those software providers as well, and help them, get the best product possible, and get new clients, and that as well really helps out. And that's, I guess, to another point there, is try to pay for the software when you can. Free software, if you're using something key and a cornerstone of your business, if it's a one-off little piece of software, that's one thing. But the key component pieces of software, um, if you can afford it, I would say absolutely pay for it, because if you're not paying for it, they're not probably not making money, and they might not be around for very long. So I take a keen interest in the pricing models of the people I support, so that they don't all of a sudden say, "Hey, we're out of money." out of business, and now you've totally had to change your whole business process as well. So really key on that side too. All right. So that's just a quick overview of some things to think about with uh, using implementing software, how to use that to improve the processes in your business. So key number one, I think is definitely doing things manually for a little while. I think it's still important to do as much manual stuff, especially if you're starting your business, and understand where the time consuming components are. You may find that out on day one. You might be like, this needs a piece of software. Absolutely, because it's going to be so time consuming to do. But identifying those and prioritizing them. Um, and the other is being careful about who you're supporting, and then implementing those pieces of software, with the time and energy that it truly takes to implement them. Engaging with your team, making sure that it's implemented, in your processes and how that's going to work. Super important to spend the time to do that. And then really embracing that overall. So where cloud technology is going to improve your business, do that and implement those without reservation. I think once you're moving forward, go for it. Can really enhance your business as well. So this is kind of the key components. One thing I wanted to mention here is we have opened up YouTube memberships, and we're going to offer a Yeti mug to our 10th member to join. So right now we get shout outs. If you're a member, we're going to give shout outs. Prioritize any comments from members. And then the 10th person to join will get the Avalon Yeti mug. And also, we'll get your details and send that to you in the mail. It's not a super sophisticated process here, but wanted to encourage everybody. And then we've got some member badges. I think the first one is Captain Picard. So we're Star Trek. Well, I'm a Star Trek fan, so Next Generation, you get a Picard logo, and then we've got some custom emojis too that you can use on our lives in the future, and so you can take a look at those. It's nothing too fancy, just a way to support the channel. But as always, likes and subscribes are awesome too. Keeps YouTube coming to different people that can find this useful. Did have a question here. I think we're going to move on to Q&A next. And I will show a question here. Oh, thanks, Heather. Would you say Google offers enough security for saving documents? Um, yeah, I mean, Google can be as secure and non-secure as you make it. Um, I think there's still questions of like health records in Canada as well that you need to be really careful of. A lot of those would need to be secured on a cloud server within Canada, which is really challenging to find. I think there's sync.com or something that can use that keeps all of your data here in Canada. But many have redundant sites throughout the world, so it makes it challenging to um, to do if you do have health records that need to be secured. Um, but Google can be quite secure. We have gone through a whole security audit with a security team, and made sure that all of our processes and trainings for our team, make it as secure as we can, as it can be. But it's the world that we live in. Like, I think there's always a chance that you could be compromised, and it's you can lock your files in the basement of your house too, but that's not perfectly secure either. I think you do your best to deter and to lock things down, but 100% is never going to happen. And from all of my understanding and research, Google is secure, as secure as it gets, provided that you're doing all the best practices associated with it. Thanks for your question. MJ, uh, what is opinion on Sage Cloud and Sage Remote Access? I haven't used Sage in years. Always their desktop product was great, and I think they've been making strides with their cloud. But they had Sage One the last time I tried it, and it was a dog's breakfast. To be honest, it felt like a little bit like QuickBooks. So we use Zero 100% at the firm here. We've looked at QuickBooks, um, but to retrain all of our bookkeepers to know two different pieces of software always felt a bit much. Um, but QuickBooks used to kind of they try to sit on the fence, like have a little bit of cloud, keep their desktop people happy, and find a sort of a middle ground with that software. And I think Sage was like, well, we're always going to keep an eye on the cloud, but we're firmly still in the desktop world. That was always I mean, that's what I got from their product, but that's been a while. So to be honest, I haven't used it in a long time, MJ, but I don't see a lot of people using it either in Canada, at least. I think it's got maybe more of a foothold in the UK, from my understanding, but I haven't used it in a while. And Sage Remote Access, no, like we've never, like it's been 9 years now that we've been using purely cloud technologies, and haven't used Sage Remote Access or anything like that. None of those server-based ones. So sorry, I can't give you more info there. Josh says he uses so for how to uh, how to stay focused with those mobile apps too is using focus mode. And if you use an iPhone, absolutely, I would make sure you do that. I've got focus going on my computer right now, so that I don't get 3,000 junk calls and text messages during the live here, but can be super helpful. Oh, wait, so it looks like Josh has some input here for you, MJ. I'm going to show that one. Um, Sage Online products still not great. So Zero, QBO, or FreshBooks much better. So FreshBooks making a big push lately. When I was first looking at all the softwares of like which one would I use for Avalon, which one had a promising future, good product, was already a step up. Zero obviously came out on top, but at the time, FreshBooks didn't even have a balance sheet. Like they'd show you what your accounts receivable were, but they didn't have any balance sheet associated with it. So it was useless for accountants. Like we can't do corporate tax return without a balance sheet. And so um yeah, it's but I think it's come a long way. But Sage, yeah, it sounds like they're still firmly in the desktop world. Hopefully they make a I mean, their other products have been really good. Like I remember using Sage. It was a like desktop, and it's fantastic. Simply accounting is great, but I wish they would spend more time in there. We got a question from Ashley. Any suggestions for enhanced budgeting and forecasting apps that integrate with Xero? Um, we have used some of these. It's mostly heavy lifting, though. I'll say, Ashley, like I think in order for you to buy it, they'll tell you how easy all this stuff is. So we've used Fathom was probably the best one that I've used in the past. I used Giraffe before as well. Super powerful. Also used Crunchboards. I think they changed the name to Futurely, maybe. There's a few, and they're all great. So I'll just use Fathom as an example, but it integrates with Xero as long as you mirror your upload. So you still create your forecasts and whatnot within a document so that you can download a template, update your numbers. You can even put formulas in there or whatnot, as long as it mirrors your chart of accounts. Then you upload that. Keep to naming conventions. Super important to keep your naming conventions really tight so that you know which forecast that you're uploading and which one you're looking at, especially if you're adapting that weekly or monthly, or even just annually. and then upload that, and you can do really nice reporting and comparisons. Where these things break down, and I still see this like up until recently, is currency conversion. So we were dealing with a company that had a US and Canadian subsidiary, and we were trying to, make sure that we everything balanced because you have to. Sorry, we're accountants. Um, and often there was this remainder, and we worked with them really hard on how we can reconcile that, and it was really just hard coding things in. So it's not perfect, the ones that I've tried out. um, but Fathom is a really good one to start with, but that's it. It is a lot of work still. Like I say, like the app will tell you that it's, 1, 2, 3, and you've got this nice forecast and things, but you still, all the same things apply with it. Creating any budget or forecast, you need to really follow and be very careful about your version control. And when you're updating things, have a timeline and a good process that you go through. But then, yes, it can draw in from Zero, and you can have really nice comparison reports and all of that. Zero does a lot of that already, and that's what we use internally. So we have, our different teams, and they all have their own forecast. Then we have an overall forecast, and we merge those all together with Zero, and you can do comparison reports and variance reports, and update all of those to get some good reporting out. So it's just not a like a three-way forecast, that if that's what you're looking for. So I spent a lot of time there, Ashley. Sorry, but yeah, it's near and dear to my heart. Right, Christine. Oh, what do you use in your firm to track deadlines for clients, i.e., PST, GST, remittances, due dates, etc.? Yeah. So, Christina, really important to when we onboard clients, that we get these really tightly controlled, and we use a program called Carbon, and within Carbon, you can set work items to start and be due on certain dates, and we track those very closely in our operating meetings every week, so we know what's coming up, what's coming due, and we, especially for GST and PST, we're looking at those really closely at the beginning of the month about what's coming due by the end of the month for those. So any sort of, I mean, you talked about automation. I think automation's great. But you need a process to make sure that automation doesn't fail on you as well. That you have a false sense of uh, complacency, or false sense of security, that it's taking care of everything. The process at the beginning is super important. So we have a quarterly filer, with off calendar year end GST return due date. We will make sure that we create the work to start on a specific date and have it repeat quarterly, and then its due dates all in there as well. And that's why it's nice with, I mean, the software that we use, Carbon, it's designed for accountants, so it keeps all of these things in kind of order for us, um, because that's what it just sort of, they built the software that way. And then it's adaptable. So if it's Manitoba RST and it's due on the 20th of the month, we can adapt that really easily as well, um, based on just the functionality built into that. But even if you're using like an Asana or another one, you just have to be really careful when you set those up, when they repeat, and when they're due maybe 20 days after the start date, or that kind of thing. Hopefully that's helpful, Christina. Right. Yeah, that's all the questions I had here. I'll leave it for a minute here in case anybody else has it. Oh, client track. Yeah, do check out Carbon, Christina. It's been transformational for our business, I would say. And I'm not sure like what size of firm you have or how many people, but what The difference was between Asana, which was, very task based, but we had templates and things set up within that. And Carbon is that we pretty much, because we added a layer of management, we have production managers that make sure the work is getting moved along, supervise the team, really drive that process, to make sure that we're meeting all of our deadlines. What we weren't really able to do that within Asana. Whereas we can have a view now in Carbon of everything that's coming due this month and who it's assigned to, and really have a meaningful operations meeting based on that. So, trust but verify. I think with the team, you don't want things to slip through the cracks, which, yeah, we've had. Not in a long time. Not in a long time. Carbon's been great for it. Kevin has a question here. What software do you use for tax preparation, annual financial statements? Kevin, we are a compilations only licensed. I've got my audit ticket. I did my work at KPMG, but I stay away from assurance work. Mostly because we do all of the work for our clients, so bookkeeping, payroll, and don't really want to maintain independence. But we use tax cycle, and no, it is not cloud based. I'm hoping they do that at some point. But the tax preparation now is still through a desktop piece of software called Tax Cycle. That's the one we use. Xero bought it, so maybe, fingers crossed, it'll be cloud one day, and they'll integrate really well. Still waiting for that to happen, although they've made some strides. For financial statements, actually, Xero has a compilation template uh, built into it. So if you have the firm account with Xero, they give you the NTR or compilation CSRS breakdown, and we mostly do the bookkeeping for our clients as well. So when we're doing the year end, we post our adjusting journal entries there, and we lock Xero, so clients can't fiddle with it, and we're able to produce the financial statements right through there. Yeah. But yeah, locking, it's important. We learned the lesson the hard way. You have to be very, very careful about locking those financials. I mean, we do a retained earnings reconciliation as first part of our year end process, but when it's out, it becomes a problem too. So we just completely lock that and make sure clients can't fiddle with anything. Um, yeah, so good to hear Tax Cycle has it on the agenda. I imagine it's going to be a while um, before they move to the cloud. That's Kevin's there. Yeah, absolutely. And then thoughts on Countable and Financial Sense. So Countable, we tried at the Zero Roadshow, and I met the Atin, um, and he was just in Toronto too. So chatted with him there. It sounds promising, although I had my accountant, one of our accountants, with us at the Zero Roadshow, and I think he was still maybe a little bit skeptical about how much time it could save. Our processes are, I mean, we use Google Docs. We don't use uh, Caseware yet. We just never saw really a use for it. But our processes are pretty tight on it, so we might save some time, but we haven't quite seen that it's going to save a ton of time. And that's from my accountant, who is very, very efficient, and we were just checking to see if that might be a good thing to have. I think maybe for some firms it might work really well. We have been looking for a working papers solution, and I haven't tried Financial Sense. I haven't seen that one around, so I can't comment on it, but I will check it out. We're always looking for. It's nice to be as efficient as possible. Mm, Yeah, but it's like that. It's like, do you introduce a whole new piece of software? This is part of the presentation here to save 10 minutes. You know, I don't know. We have to see how much time it would actually save and whether there's a commercial reason for it. It's always a challenge, especially as we grow, that implementing this piece of software is a much bigger project than it used to be. Not that we're huge, but still, it's still. I'm very cautious now. I gained myself a reputation here at Avalon for being a little bit overzealous with software. But thanks for your question there, Kevin. All right. Looks like we have some good accounting questions here today. It looks like we've got some accountants on there. And hey, I mean, make comments if you want to see more of an accounting focused presentation like this. Happy to do that for accounting firms or other service based businesses. I feel like it's what we know the most. We see a lot of obviously different clients of different industries, e-commerce and whatnot, but service based is what I live because I kind of just run the business now, and I absolutely love chatting about this stuff as well. And we've learned a lot over the years. We made some, some mistakes along the way, and happy to share those if you find that interesting. Um, uh, and yeah, I think yeah, our upcoming. Yeah. So next live event. Thanks, Lori. Is strategic tax planning for Canadian small business owners. We try to make it simple and clear and straightforward and most relevant to all kinds of small business owners, not just ones making millions of bucks and whatnot. Want to make this absolutely completely relevant for all kinds of small businesses. If you don't know our sort of philosophy here at Avalon, but mine, and I hold this near and dear to my heart, is that this business that you're creating should provide you with financial security, time freedom, and a greater purpose as well. And a big part of that, a big part of the financial freedom bit or financial security is being tax conscious. And it doesn't mean, oversees like accounts and getting out of your tax obligations, but it's about planning ahead and not paying more tax than you need to, and using the things that are already in the act and that are absolutely 100% legal to help you create wealth. And those two things are not mutually exclusive. You can do that legally and all above board, with a bit of planning. And that's what we're going to cover in that next session. So hopefully I see you there and keep an eye out for it. That'll be in 2 weeks. So we're trying to do these YouTube lives every 2 weeks. I will take a break over Christmas, but we'll be back in the new year. Well, back in 2 weeks, and then back in the new year for some more YouTube lives. Really enjoy doing these and love the questions I get as well. So thank you all so much. I make sure I'm out of slides here. I am out of slides. So yeah, and any ideas that you have, please post them in different comments. And again, membership, 10th member gets a nice Yeti mug with Avalon branding. So if you're looking for a way to support the channel, that is absolutely the best way to do it. Barring that, like your likes and subscribes are obviously super important to us, and comments and whatnot, and suggestions for future content. We're happy to do just about anything. So thank you so much all for watching, and do watch out for our course coming up too, which is the 7-day business starter course. Paul and I have been working like crazy hard on it, and we're hoping it's really good. We think it's all really good, relevant information. And if you'd like to sign up for that, I'll put a QR code here as well. You can join the wait list. So we will be launching that ASAP, and you'll get a discount code and be able to provide us feedback on the early stages there. So that would be great. So I'll give you a chance to scan that. We do have updates on events. So if you want to sign up your emails for upcoming events like this one, we just send just the event updates to that email list, so you can check that out as well. You'll get updated as soon as we put those out. So give you a chance to look at that. And lastly, because this was a tools thing, we do have a whole directory of tools that we've tried out, that we use, that we recommend. So you can check out our best online tools for small businesses. Some of them are affiliate links, so that is another way to, if you're looking at it and enjoying that piece of software and can scan that and use those. That helps us too. Helps us keep going on this channel. Keeps it a actual revenue source rather than a time sink and a passion project, which is what it is right now. But yeah, that's a way to support us as well. And then that's it. Thank you all so much for joining and giving me your attention. Really appreciate it and appreciate all the support we've been getting on the channel these last few years and especially lately. It's been great. So thanks all, and we hope to see you very soon. Cheers.